weird hot day in Liverpool. Weird day, very strange day in Liverpool. But I'm going to be talking about Sadio Mane, who feels very much like that at the moment. Is that I can feel the heat. I can see some real, rays of sunshine. But at the same time, it does feel like there's some sort of dark, foreboding thunderclouds on the horizon as well. So yeah, it's one of the weird things about Sadio Mane. Just to dive into this, of course, is that look, he's amazing. He's genuinely amazing, and of course, it was worth referencing, of course, because you can't not talk about Sadio Mane without referring to my good friend James Redmond. I don't do it, but to maybes I do absolute. And we had a bit of a laugh, and yes, I was sort of laughing at him at the time when we did that video because I never really felt Mane was the best player in the world as such. But when we talk about what Sadio Mane can do, is he in the bracket of the best players in the world? Yeah, I absolutely think he is. And there's a weird sort of narrative developed. I say weird, sorry. There's a narrative developed in the last 18 months about Sadio Mane and whether he's on the decline or, some people saying he's rubbish. And Conor Crosby saying in the comments, hard to tell whether he's off form or decline. And I think that's exactly it. And that's the kind of thing I want to talk about, to be honest, because ultimately we won't know until the end of the season. And so a little bit of this is just based on what we do know about him, and kind of filling in the gaps with a bit of empathy and understanding and life experience and what have you. But let me know your thoughts on Mane and where he's at and how highly you rate him and all that kind of stuff in the comments. Let's have a good old chat about Sadio. We've very much got a no dickheads policy on Maych TV, but across the whole Redmen network in terms of social media interactions. People who are knobs will be getting their comments hidden and be barred from the channels. So sound, it means that we should be fostering a nice community where we can have reasonable discussion. That means you can have opinions on a full range of things, but just not be audible about them because there's no need. So Sadio, look, in terms of where he was last season, it was his second lowest goal return since joining Liverpool, which is mad because you think it would be his lowest, but of course his lowest was actually his first season. He got 13 in his first season, but he played like 10 less games. So his goals to games ratio was pretty much the worst that it's been last season. 16 though he scored in all competitions, which I was surprised by, I'm honest. When I was looking back to this, this is sort of following on from the two shows I did. There's the one I did last week on this channel and the one I did over on Redmen TV, looking at comparing the 2018 squad to the 2021 current squad and seeing whether it's improved or not. These are all sort of links. If you haven't seen either of those, do go and check them out because they'll all kind of feel part of the same sort of set, as it were. But I've got a stat up there anyway. Last season, 46 appearances in all competitions. I say 48. Brilliant, getting old. 16 goals and 9 assists, which I was quite impressed by, to be honest. When you go back to the title-winning season, made one less appearance, 47, 22 goals and 12 assists. Now, the assist thing, I want to be seeing Mané get to double figures assists every season, of course, but also it's worth pointing out that last season we couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo in front of goal in general, which Mané was very much a part of, but also like Bobby Firmino really struggled for goals as well. And in fact, Liverpool weren't as good in front of goal in general, which obviously contributes to this. So people talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold's assist return, and he's having a bit of a dip of form, and he did have a bit of a dip of form last season, but the overriding conversations around his form were wide of the mark, because it's all well and good if you're creating chances, but if the other guys in front of goal that you're passing them to can't finish the dinner, then yeah, you're not going to score as many goals, are you? What I think is interesting, though, if you take it back all the way to the 18-19 season, which is where I did the comparisons the other week, which was the side that won the Champions League and got 97 points and finished second in the league. That season in particular, Sadio Mane scored 26 goals in all competitions and 5 assists. So, the last couple of seasons, his creativity has been up, but his goal return has gone down. Now, of course, there's more to being a forward player than just goals, which is the kind of thing that we say a lot of as Liverpool fans. I feel like that over the years. And now and it feels like the Firmino argument, which I know doesn't wash with a lot of people. But the thing is, look, we've been doing this since the later days of Ian Rush and the days of Karl-Heinz Riedler and Emil Heskey and all that guys who were foils for other people. Do I think, top line, that Mane's in decline? I don't. One of the contributing factors to I think Sadio Mane, and I think this applies to the other two of the old school, the current school from today, and Firmino and Salah. They played a hell of a lot of football. Now, mostly they haven't had a proper summer break in a very long time, and even this summer with the Copa Americas meant Bobby's not. But because AFCON was moved back to winter, so we'll know what that impact is in January. It meant that Salah and Mané actually got to have a proper pre-season, which never happens. Because if you think back to Liverpool's pre-season, what normally happens is the rubbish, can't score goals. All the lads who were on the understudies, and we all freak out about Liverpool's depth, and then they come back for like the last game of pre-season, score loads of goals, and then the season starts, and then they score loads of goals throughout the season. So yeah, they've actually had that, and you can see Mane, and he looked in pre-season. You could watch him. You could plot his return to top form by watching Mane in pre-season. He went from like almost a broken shell of a man at times last season to just being Sadio. Our Sadio, the Sadio that we know and love once again, and it was so encouraging to see that in pre-season, because I think he is. I think as far as a left winger, an inverted left winger or inside forward, is he the best in the world? I mean, look, there'll be people who obviously play a lot more Football Manager than I do, and maybe students of the international game more than I am. But I always say, when you say someone the best in the world, it's a very inflammatory comment. I always take it to mean, are they in the very top brackets? Now, Messi and Ronaldo tend to have redefined what the top bracket looks like over the last decade or more. So again, it's terrific. But what I mean is there a piece of paper between you and the other best players in your position? And that's why when I look at Liverpool's squad, I say Liverpool have got the best players in the world in most of the positions in their side. Because let's be honest, when people name me other names, it is debatable whether you would swap our players for that player, and that's what I'm driving at. Is that in terms of goal return, I can't think of, and please actually let me know in the comments, who do you think are, who are the other contenders for the best left wingers in world footy today? Because, I mean, you might argue, I think Jadon Sancho would be in there, even though he plays a lot from the right-hand side, because you could play in there because he's right-footed, like Mane. Pacey, assists, goals. Jota's a good shout there. Maybe Jota coming through. It looked like he was the understudy for Mane, but now we're seeing him play as the understudy for Firmino as well, which is very interesting indeed. But yeah, that's the point. I think Mane... I think he's been in a run of bad form, and I don't actually think he's in that run of bad form. The problem is that because he's had that year where he did struggle a little bit, a year where he struggled and still scored 16 goals, by the way, which as far as a winger's return is still like Ryan Giggs. I don't think he ever scored more than I can find that out actually. Ryan Giggs basically never scored more than a handful of goals. I have a feeling it's like 7 might be his best goal return in the season, and people laud him as the best left winger the Premier League's ever had. Different formations, different style of football, all that, but you take my meaning on that. Anyway, on the Mane thing, here's my hope with Sadio Mane, because look, he might be in decline. Thanks McGuigan there, 11 in the season. There you go, best Premier League winger, only ever scored 11 in the season. He's 29 years old, so he's not done. He's not had a career that's been plagued with injuries, so it's not like we've been strapping him and putting him back together and throwing him out on the pitch like Fernando Torres or Steven Gerrard had a little bit of that, or Michael Owen certainly had a bit of that, where he was just pushed through injuries. Mane's been incredibly resilient and incredibly resistant to those kind of things, and now he's at a point where he's 29 years old, and look, he's a known entity amongst other teams. But what I think happened, and I think why this has kind of come back to the forefront after the Chelsea game at the weekend, I actually thought he was better than a lot of people thought he was. I actually enjoyed, like, him putting a reducer in the first couple of minutes. I enjoyed seeing fired up Sadio, but it's also as a consideration, just looking at the Chelsea game first, playing down the left-hand side of that Liverpool team, that is, I think, the way our left-hand side functions, it functions through functionality as well as brilliance, but functionality first. So what you have is, on that left-hand side, you've had Andy Robertson, you've had Gini Wijnaldum in the midfield, and then Sadio Mane in front. And all of those guys, I mean, when you compare them to like the other side of the pitch, potentially, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is like this ridiculous natural talent, you can make a case for whoever that right side of midfielder is, but like when the days when it was Oxlade-Chamberlain or Jordan Henderson or whatever, yeah. And then you've got Mohamed Salah, who's just the best right winger in the world, to my earlier point. I think so much of what Liverpool do down the left-hand side is born out of that interaction and that understanding. And all of a sudden, you're playing against Chelsea, where Andy Robertson's absolutely, it's his first game back after having missed the end of pre-season with an injury, thrown into an incredibly intense football match. Jordan Henderson's now playing on the left-hand side and looked a little uncomfortable, so he doesn't have a good game. And then Mane's up against Azpilicueta, who has a brilliant game, and Chelsea are also playing 45 minutes of let's get everyone behind the ball and make sure there's no space for Liverpool to exploit. So yeah, so I think that's a contributing factor, and I would expect, because I was impressed with how Mané played the first two games. I wouldn't say let's write off the first two games because of the third game, because there's definitely far more extenuating circumstances around that game than the two that preceded it. But anyway, the reason why I think he's had a bit more of a struggle, yes, there's the fitness thing in terms of he's just been overworked. But what was really, really interesting and really informative, I think, on Sadio Mane was the End of the Storm documentary, the one that Sky did with LFC TV. And I didn't watch that when it came out. It was a little hard, but over the summer I went back and revisited it. And it's an interview with him in which he talks about basically fatigue being all in the head. It's all a psychological thing, and he doesn't really feel it because he doesn't feel tiredness, basically, because he's saying I'm so mentally strong. And well, that's just horseshit, right? In the best possible way. So I love it. I love the mantra of it, and it is definitely true to some extent because to quote another quote, this time from The Rock and Sean Connery's character in that losers whine about their best, winners go home and fuck the prom queen. And the point is that losers use their psychological weakness as an excuse for not doing the things that they could maybe do. And we've all been in those situations where we're not feeling our strongest, and it's like, why when you're eating poorly or drinking poorly, it's like because you've had a bad week. Oh well, no, I deserve it because I've had a shit time. I'll go and I'll treat myself worse because life has treated me badly. That kind of thing. Elite mentality people don't have that. They just continue to look after themselves. It's that kind of thing. And the thing about Mané is, I think the crack started to show. And another thing that he referenced, of course, is that he lives alone. He doesn't have his family around him. He doesn't have a wife or girlfriend or kids. And when you're not allowed to go and get out in the world, and I'm sure, look, there's a lot of people coming from different backgrounds who are watching this video. I was okay, relatively speaking. I had my wife, I had my two kids around me, and for a lot of lockdowns, I was able to still get out and come into the office and carry on working, and then we could mix a bit more and more and more. So it was hard. It was hard for all of us, but it was. I can appreciate that there were people for whom it was much harder. People who didn't have someone to go home to and who craved that human interaction. Now, Mané was still at some point. Obviously, in the early lockdown, everyone was just locked down. But then later on, when you're still going back into training, you're still working, but you're not socialising. And I think that's the kind of thing that it's hard for us because we look at elite sports people sometimes and we just presume they're resistant to everything. And you can see it in like the strength of Jurgen Klopp was wavering last year. He was wavering, and we hold him up as this tower of power, this institution of sort of happiness and motivation around Liverpool, and even he was wavering. Now, bear in mind the extreme circumstances of losing his mother as well and all that, of course, but the point is this: we all struggled, but I think it crossed the board. All the people who had no one to around them, no one in close quarters with them, the psychological toll took more of a toll on people in those kind of circumstances, and I think that's where Mané fell foul. And there might be one or two more Liverpool players. Maybe Taki Minamino falls into that as well. We don't kind of know, but I can't know. So I've not heard him talk about it. So we'll talk about Mané because we do know that he said that. Someone saying there, Igor saying I think Salah had him over for Ramadan again. But this is the thing: is that the normality of life. We all found ourselves desperate for this, and I also think, and it's been mentioned to a few people, particularly like Firmino as well. I think Salah is a ruthless, stone cold killer of a footballer. And that's why he can stand there when he does his big goals. He can just stand there and just so like Man City away quarterfinals, the blue smoke going off around them, look at it and try not to get chills. Mane is I think Mane and Firmino are a bit more crowd pumped. I think they need Firmino because he's just a natural born extroverted entertainer, and Mane because I think he's that kind of guy who just he'll run it, he'll go an inch further, he'll plumb depths that you didn't know he had because he's got that roaring on around him as well. So again, that's the thing about Mané. I think he's got there was a lot of extenuating circumstances and unique environments around that maybe contributed towards a bit of a dip off in form. And again, I say a bit of a dip off. He still scored 16 goals last season, which is an astonishing return. If people can tell me, I know we play a relatively unique formation, easy for me to say. How many other people in that category, in that position, got that goal return last season in the Premier League or in world football, and you're probably listing a list of either the current world's best or one or two who are scheduled to be the world's best. So yeah, I think and it's an interesting notion about Mané is that the world class tag it can be fleeting sometimes. I think once you are world class, I don't think you're ever not it. I think you possess world-class traits. It's very difficult to not have that. I can see former players who are 50 and 60 years old who can still ping a pass like you would not believe because they were at that level, and that's not something you lose. You can lose world class like physicality, so you can lose the ability to do the 100 meters in less than 11 seconds or whatever, but in terms of being a world class, Ronaldo is not. If you stood Ronaldo next to 26-year-old Ronaldo would fucking batter this current Ronaldo everywhere, but we still think this current Ronaldo's world class, and he is, because he still gets the goal outputs. But you take my point, it's all about, we like to compare things a lot, weirdly. But I do understand why people's estimations of Mane are wavering a bit, and I think this is a very, very big season for him. The idea that he finished at 29 is just complete nonsense, because there are literally people wanking themselves off on the internet over Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Sergio Ramos joining PSG. It's like an old people's home, and people are like going, "Oh, isn't this amazing?" It's like the WCW in the 90s, brilliant, dead entertaining. We all want to see these guys who were from our childhood, but really they're not quite what they were. You might be able to get a good story out of them, but in the longevity, in the long term, other people will rise and take their places. And let's be honest, if players like that can perform in the mid-30s, and you've got Sadio Mane, 29 years old, I think he's got a lot left in the tank, is what I would suggest. Now, does that mean he'll have that time at Liverpool to finish that off? I don't know, because let's be honest, if you had to, Liverpool might well be in a situation, look at the finances, where they have to trade in on someone. Get the best money you can get from someone while knowing that you've got most of their best years out of them. And at the moment, you wouldn't be trading Mo Salah for anything, because he definitely looks like he could just go on and on and on and on and on and score and score and score and score. Mane's had that bit of a dip, so it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back. But my God, the reason Liverpool won the league title, nobody wanted to win the Premier League title more than Sadio Mane. Like, there was something visceral about him, and I'm being at Villa Park, for example, and Sadio Mane it was dripping off him, this desperation to put every little egg of energy inside his being into getting Liverpool the title. And sometimes that means you can burn that out. God knows I remember Craig Bellamy burning out for Liverpool, albeit he was heading towards the twilight of his career, and he had two wonderful games against Man City in the League Cup, and that was him done. Basically, he was completely finished. His career never got back to anything like that level again after that. But no, to write off a 29-year-old Sadio Mane, who has been, if not the actual standout on a pedestal above all else, best left winger in world football for the last 5 years. Again, he's still in there about there. Even the best players have seasons that are lower by their own standards and by our own standards. But yeah, what I'd say is, write off Sadio Mane at your pedal. And I mean this more for people outside of Liverpool, because I don't know why any Liverpool fans would write him off. Like, what's the point? Genuinely, why would you be asked to write an amazing Liverpool player off? What would you get from that? Yeah, I said Sadio Mane was finished. Hey, all right, boss. No, get in the bin. No, I think he's great, and I hope you all do too, because he's a lovely human being. He's a lovely footballer, and he's boss. And basically, I'm just saying that if you are the kind of person who's saying I'm writing Mane off, there's a very real chance that you might bum dogs. Just saying. So be careful with that. Don't put that on the internet, because if you say that, it reveals that. So you want to be careful with that. Right, listen, that's it. Let us know your thoughts on the Mane thing. I think he'll be back. I think the fact that we've seen some really positive signs from pre-season and beyond, you don't become shit and you don't become finished at 29 when you're a player like Sadio Mane. You just don't. He'll go on. He'll have a boss season, and yeah, hopefully he'll be even better. And a great point by Etienne there. The fire in their bellies, I think, might be there because you've got that competitive nature of other good players coming into the league, but also these lads just want to go and win a league title or win another European Cup, and be able to parade it for the fans, because they know how important that is. But yes, two things I want to point out to everyone. Bear with me one moment. Ta-da! We're sponsoring this video ourselves. We've got the Jordan Henderson 10 Years of Red documentary series. The 3-episode series is now available in physical media form. On DVD, it's got a bonus poster inside celebrating the Madrid 19 final as well, and we've got these brand new t-shirts which are inspired by Liverpool's away kit, not the yellow one that everyone seems to hate, but the Crew Stone one that everyone loves because it's fit. We've got 2 of these t-shirts. We've got a green one, which is inverted of this, and this is the crew one, which I genuinely love, but they're both available right now on redmanmerch.com. So yes, if you want to get one, get over to redmanmerch.com. That'll be absolutely splendid. You're a wonderful, wonderful human being. You individually, apart from the ones who obviously bum dogs, who, just saying, seek help. But yeah, have a great day. Go and check out the starting 11 prediction. Chris is live very, very shortly over on the Redmen YouTube channel. I've dovetailed this wonderfully. So just go straight over to youtube.com/the Redmen TV if you're live and check that out. But yeah, other than that, have a wonderful afternoon and weekend. Drop a like on this video as well and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll have a chat over the weekend in a bit.